Welcome to the Geek Dome, brother. Thanks for checking in. All right, Imposter is the brilliantly titled new solo album from Dave Gahan of Depeche Mode, as it is a covers album, and Lori Majewski sat down with him yesterday. Thoughts?
Oh, I was like, that kind of said it all. It was actually Wednesday, and he just released his third. I guess coming up soon next month is the third album he did with Soul Savers. And look, I love Dave Gahan. I wasn't a massive fan of the first two records. I am a big fan of this one. All these covers are so beautiful, and as you're going to hear us talk about, it's Dave Gahan that is the secret sauce. He brings all of these songs together under one album, and it's great. Here's me and Dave.
Hi, Laurie. How you doing?
I'm great. Where are you?
I'm actually out at my house on Montauk.
Oh, all right. I just got back from the North Fork, so I was out there. I know how beautiful it is.
Yeah. I spent, in the last year and a half, I've spent a lot of time out here. A lot of time also, sometimes with my family, sometimes not. And in fact, we've had the house for almost 20 years, and I've never spent as much time as I really like it. I like being in a house as opposed to an apartment in Manhattan, but I like that too. But there's something about this that is, walking on the beach and stuff like that. I'm into it.
Is that partially why you decided to go out to LA, to Shangri-La, to Malibu to record Soul Savers?
It might have been a little bit of that. And when we did this record back in November in 2019, but I did want to have that experience, yeah. And fortunately the opportunity came up, Rick Rubin was taking some time off, a little break for a month, and Rich Machin and myself, we took the opportunity to use his place and went out there with the 10 musicians, and we just tracked all these songs live. There was a lot of preparation actually before.
Wow,
before we
live! I was wondering. It sounds like it was tracked live. It sounds, yes. There is such a vibe to this record. I just got it last night. I've listened to it a bunch of times, but this has such a vibe. I mean, the songs span decades. It's musical genres, but it sounds like in that room, your voice, yes, but it feels like the room there was a mood that permeates the record no matter how many different types of songs you have.
That's exactly what happened. And, it could have gone really wrong, but, if the place wasn't right, and everything about it is just these musicians as well, I've worked with now for a few records. And this was the first time actually that we were all in the room together. And it's sort of taken, without doing the other two records before as well with Soul Savers, I don't think we could have got here. And also doing some performances on stage with them live. This is kind of where we were trying to get to. And it just played out like that. And I didn't want it to also be, there was no, redoing parts was not allowed. It's like, I was
really?
Like, you don't get to redo your part. There was one time with my friend Martijn, who played a lot of stand-up bass as well as like his electric bass. But we did this performance of Lilac Wine, and I went out, we finished, we went through it all day long until we finally got to where we needed to be, and with it, and we said, let's start, it's happening. Like, if we don't catch it now, we're going to lose this tonight. And so we did a couple of runs down of the track, and one of them was, I looked at Martijn and I was like, that was it, right? And he was, I could see on his face, he didn't need to say anything. It was. And then I left the room, because sometimes when you're singing or you're performing with a bunch of people and you're right, it's very intimate, and you just feel like you just threw your clothes off or something in front of everybody. And so I have to leave the room for or do something. So I went to get some coffee or something from the kitchen, and when I came back, Martijn was sitting with the engineer and he was listening and about to sort of say what parts he needed to fix. And I was like, whoa, what are you doing? And, we kind of got into a little thing. And I was like, no, you don't get to that. That was it. And he said, no, but I can hear, I knocked the fret a couple of times with my finger and he can hear it. And I was like, good, leave it. And, he was a little mad at me for a while, but just recently when we talked about that, he was like, you were right. You were right to leave it all alone. It's because the record plays, it's how, once, when we started tracking these songs each day, and by the end of the day, we had something, within a week, I had maybe like 7 songs, and I realized that the order and the sequencing was very important to the way these songs were going to sort of tell a little story.
Well, you mentioned Lilac Wine. That is my favorite performance on the record for all the reasons that you said. It's funny that you said throw off your clothes because it's an extremely vulnerable and extremely naked performance. And it made me think, and by the way, I didn't even know that song before. I had to go back and listen to the original. And it's a really interesting choice because you've been sober for so long. And that song is a descent into madness.
Well, look, and that's just because you put down the booze and the drugs or whatever. It doesn't mean you don't have all the stuff going on in your head. But hopefully, it just doesn't get quite as bad. But the song sits perfectly between, for me, between Strange Religion, and then You Have to Go to Hell, My Baby Last Night. It was, it just it's having that dependency. It's having a true love that you feel and that is there. And maybe that love at that particular time is a substance, it's not always a person, unfortunately. But I felt like it was in a story that I was trying to tell, after sort of like The Dark End of the Street and Strange Religion, those 2 songs, Lilac Wine needed to come next.
Yeah. Singing live like that, that's not something you normally do with Depeche when you record?
I do, actually. I kind of try to, it's a little different because everything, things are built with the Depeche record in a very different way. But usually initially when we first get together in the studio, Martin will pick up a guitar and, if we're trying to work out the key of the song and maybe the tempo or, an arrangement that's going to work, we might get a drum machine going on or something, and whoever's producing or engineering, Martin will play through an amp or at the piano, and so that we can figure it out. And quite often I have a live mic in the studio, usually in the control room, and I perform the song because I've already been maybe working with the song myself personally before I show up to the studio. And I did that with these songs too. I spent months singing myself in my studio through a PA system with a live microphone. And we often do that, with Depeche when we start to shape the song first of all. And quite often some of those early just kind of scratchy type vocals that I was going to do, the producer will be, we're going to use that vocal. That's the vocal. Yeah. That's happened a few times, but not so much with Depeche. With this record, then quite often you start building the track, and then I'll come back to it again and go into a booth, with headphones, and I will sing down the song 3 or 4 times. But but I always do performances, and sometimes our whole performance is used with the Depeche record, and sometimes it's pieced together from maybe like 2 or 3 performances. But with this record, they were all one-off performances.
You mentioned The Dark End of the Street. Before I got to Lilac Wine, I could almost just put The Dark End of the Street on repeat. It's such a great way to open the record. And you mentioned that there's it's fantastic. And I mean, I know the Linda Ronstadt version, the James Carr version is that is the one. And, I was talking to a mutual friend of ours yesterday, Michael Pagnotta, and he said that every night after the devotional tour, Martin and him would go back to the hotel and play The Dark End of the Street in the hotel room. And I'm like, does Dave know that? How did you pick that song?
Well, I did know that. Well, funnily enough, I didn't know it was one of Martin's favorite songs too. It was that was totally coincidental. He told me that after I sent him a copy of Imposter when about a year ago, when we had finished, I made a copy of our mixed album, and I sent it to Martin, and he liked it really a lot. And he said to me, "Did you know that Dark End of the Street was one of my favorite songs?" And I said, "No, I had no clue. I was never I never went back to his particular room with Michael that night, and I remember the tour, and of course, Dark End of the Street." In that particular Muscle Shoals kind of like feel and version, that's what we were trying to achieve with Songs of Faith and Devotion. We were trying to make a record that felt like performances and had blues and gospel influences to it. And so for me, Dark End of the Street had to be the opener for this particular record, and because it feels to me as well like it's the opener in a show as well. It's like that's the song I would. And if we get to do some performances, which I think is going to happen, of Imposter, for sure, we will be performing the record as it plays out, as you hear it right now. That's what will be the Imposter
in order.
In order.
So what is the story? I mean, did you want to tell a certain story and you set out to find songs that fit that narrative? Or did you find these songs piecemeal and, as you said, put them in order? Because they're very specific songs.
They found me. I mean, and I see how specific they are now. And I hear it. And as usual, I'm suddenly then informed by the music, by the band, by my voice, and my interpretation of what these songs are and mean to me. I'm suddenly informed about myself and where I am and what I'm doing and what I need to do and what I haven't done yet. The record plays out like that. That's why it closes with Always on My Mind, because I'm asking, I know I did all this shit, but please forgive me. I know this is where I go a lot of the time, and I know it gets me in trouble. And it's not my intention, or it wasn't my intention, but here I am again. And, but I'm the best to hang in here. We all are, especially this last couple of years. It's like we're all just trying to figure out how it is we move forward in life. Like, I think that process for me, like, suddenly got really sped up. I've always been looking for that, like this direction. But suddenly it got sped up for us, didn't it? By forcing us to all, lock down into some weird, I don't know. The pandemic is, I think.
Were you in New York during the darkest times?
I was. So yeah, and we chose to actually stay like with my wife and my son Jimmy and my daughter Stella Rose. We chose. There was one point where we were going to just come out here, and we decided to hunker down and stay in the city. And I think it was the right choice because, you know, I mean, New York just it changed into something that was like post-apocalyptic. You know, it's like all the movies that we've seen, that was really happening. And it felt like that in this usually, you know, mad city that, you know, we all, you know, hate and love at the same time, turned into this weird ghost town.
I know. When I heard Smile, your take on Smile, it brought me back to the pandemic. And you're the second artist to cover it that I've talked to this year. I talked to Sarah McLachlan about covering Smile. She's in this new documentary, The Sound of Us, how music got us through the pandemic. And so when I heard your Smile, there's a desperation, but a hope in it.
Yeah, well, that's important to recognize, is that for me, in all these songs, there is both those things. And it feels to me like in the sequencing of the record, to me, it feels like I take you on a journey of, yes, there is despair in there and darkness, but then there is a great deal of hope. And I think optimism. And also this feeling of accepting where it is I am.
Where are you? You're a rock and roll Hall of Famer. I have to take you. I'm such a fan, Dave. I got to take a moment. You are a rock and roll Hall of Famer. And although I was supposed to be there that night, you were supposed to be there that night. No one can change that. Look what you've done with your life. I mean, you've done so much, and you said you still have somewhere to go. Where do you got to go?
You know, that's, I guess I'm going to find out, but like, I'm okay with that. Like, there's definitely been times in my life where I was not okay in finding out what would happen tomorrow. And you know, now I feel like, you know, I really feel a lot of kind of contentment, which is strange for me. So it's as unnerving as feeling like I, you know, don't know what to do with myself. It's as unnerving, but in a way, maybe it's age, and maybe, yeah, it's like you said, a lot of work that I've done over these years, the amazing people that I've got to work with. I'm seeing all that now. Like, I'm seeing all that, and the gratitude for it. I mean, like, they're just, my band, Depeche Mode, about to put out the box set, this version of the 101 film that D.A. Pennebaker made, who's sadly no longer with us. But there it is. It's there forever, you know, and it's this beautifully put together thing, which, you know, I can remember that moment on that stage in Pasadena like it was yesterday.
For 101? Yeah.
Yeah. I you know, the way I felt. And after that show, I felt like that was the end. That how could anything get possibly better or than this? This is it. And how wrong was I? You know. But that's how it felt afterwards. There was this moment of absolute euphoria, and then this crashing moment of like, well, that's it then. You know, like, and you know, sometimes I still feel like that, but I know it's not over yet. Like the Dylan song says, you know, it's not dark yet.
It's not dark yet. Dave Gahan, Imposters, Soul Savers. And I just want to say again, congratulations on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I was one of those people beating down those doors to get you guys in. And you talk about gratitude that night. You showed such gratitude. You turned something that we were all like, what? Into something really glorious. And I guess my last question is, have you seen those guys since? You had to be with them on virtual. Did you see?
I have not seen them. We have not seen each other, but it was like when we first walk into a studio together or anything, we're immediately taking the piss out of each other. Like nothing has changed in that, but we're like three school kids, kind of, struggling to be slightly better than the other one who's standing next to you, it actually ended up like, to me, it became this like little comedy bit. And then, sometimes that's what it feels like. It's like, being in a band is a bit of a sort of, it's like some weird, like, tragic comedy movie.
Well, congratulations on the record. I love it, love it, love it.
All right.
Love you, Dave.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.